this is, you got a feel for Laura Ingraham here. And Steve Cortez. It was Steve Cortez, some Fox News correspondent.
He's like a Trump campaign outreach person for basically just Cubans in Florida.
All right, guys, I want you to contemplate in your head. What would be the devastating thing, the knockout punch to Joe Biden if you are the Trump campaign? Now, the problem they had is that they relied on Sleepy Joe, and they basically set the bar for Joe Biden so low. Like they're like, he's not even gonna be able to show up at the debate. Frankly, I was a little concerned about it too. But that's a very risky strategy, because when the guy shows up and can actually, like, it's not like Donald Trump is, one of the world's greatest sort of, most sophisticated orators. Let's put it that way. Joe Biden shows up, you've lost your entire narrative. So maybe they're settling on this one. Can you believe it? Joe Biden as a nefarious children's television program hero.
As much, but he was pretty softball in the way he approached Biden. It was very gentle reframing of some of his answers.
Right.
But Savannah Guthrie was really a competitor to the president, not a moderator.
Yeah, to say the least. ABC put on the equivalent of a church ice cream social for Joe Biden up in Philadelphia as a TV program. It reminded me of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And conversely, NBC staged a political knife fight down in Miami. And if I compare that to a TV program, it seemed more like The Wire. So I think what we saw today, really, unfortunately, was a brazen display of media duplicity. It is extremely clear who corporate media wants.
Now, the funny part is, who was it, Matt, that tweeted out, like, Joe Biden came off like Mr. Rogers?
Oh, I don't know who exactly that was.
Who was that?
Mercedes Schlapp.
Mercedes Schlapp. I mean, that is, and who is she again?
Matt Schlapp's wife.
Oh, right. Okay. So exactly. So the head of CPAC's wife. And Mr. Rogers, I mean, think about this, right? Joe Biden is winning with younger people. He's winning with older people. I went to go see that Mr. Rogers movie, and in that theater was basically filled with people my age crying hysterically. Basically, and it's like, that is the worst cohort you want to say, he is Mr. Rogers, because that, like, we were all raised, we only had 4 channels on TV. That was it. And like Mr. Rogers was like our surrogate parents. This guy, like, the idea of comparing Joe Biden to Mr. Rogers and thinking that's a winning strategy. And they've got the idea of like going on Fox News and comparing something to The Wire. Nobody knows on Fox News, like, who the Fox News audience watch The Wire, right? I mean, they are just they're so knocked out of the box. Now,
if you did watch The Wire, let's just say, whose neighborhood would you rather be a character in? Mr. Rogers or,
right, exactly.
Amsterdam.
If I were if a Trump Spox on Fox News, I would say that Trump was like a sitting duck on Duck Dynasty.
Right, exactly.
Can I just say, exactly. Like, if you had a computer that could simulate general elections and you could just plug in any figure from history against Trump, it's hard to think of one who would perform better in this election than Mr. Rogers.
Right, exactly. Exactly. We need to well, I mean, certainly in terms of demeanor, right? I mean, the big question, well, there's 2 or 3 sort of like 30,000 foot questions about this election. One is it possible to beat Donald Trump? Period. Like, is it possible for anybody running against Donald Trump to beat Donald Trump? Because his nationalism, racism, fascism is activating more voters, and they've been able to bring out more it may just from the data, non-college educated white voters. Is that possible? And then if it's possible, the question is, can you win by making it exclusively a referendum on Donald Trump? Biden is the one who's just like, I'm not here. I am just like something that is not distasteful to as many people as possible. And you got to vote on whether you want to deal with Donald Trump anymore. That is basically what this election comes down to. And we will see. But Mr. Rogers is certainly the guy you would want if you wanted to make it just exclusively a referendum on Donald Trump.
Absolutely. I mean, to answer your question about what's going to bring out voters, I do know that turnout in midterms, as we've discussed, was driven by concern about Trump and concern about healthcare. So it's not the craziest idea to think that a candidate who combines both of those things would be more successful, right?
But as it's articulated, that's sort of what Biden's been running on. It's certainly what all the Democrats are running on is, they're not necessarily offering a healthcare plan that I would want, but they are aided by the fact that the Trump administration is attacking healthcare that exists now. That's why healthcare, it's not even about healthcare anymore, right? It's all about pre-existing conditions. That's the big surrogate. And that is
for a lot of people, it's also about being able to afford your premiums.
Well, I understand, but I'm talking about in the context of the election, you don't hear, it's Joe Biden's not offering anything that's going to reduce premiums. If he has a plan, it's a rather technocratic one, and it's not, a bumper sticker. The bumper sticker is pre-existing conditions. And I think, like I say, I think the Democrats are lucky there's not another month or so, because the Republicans are starting to sort of mount a defense to that. I don't think it's a disingenuous one, but it's at least a response.